friends, so I just recorded an intro that wasn't recording, so I'm going to try to go kind of quickly through what I just already thought I was recording. I had a dream that I know 110% was from the Lord. And anytime I have a dream like that, I usually feel compelled to share. Because when the Lord speaks and the Lord moves, you just like are bursting at the seams about it when you know for a fact, beyond the shadow of a doubt, it was from Him. That is always an intense experience. He's given me other dreams, and I've recorded most of them that I knew 100% were from Him. This dream I've hesitated to share. I dreamt this on the evening of August 11th, and it's one of the most meaningful dreams of my life. It may be the most meaningful dream that I ever have, and I've been sitting on it because it was very convicting. It's basically God calling me out on some things that He wants me to correct about my life. And so, you know, it's daunting to get on YouTube and share it with strangers, many of whom are going to leave you potentially not very nice comments. And, you know, receiving a word of correction is never going to be easy, but I'd much rather receive it in the form of a dream than in the form of something bad happening. So, not that I think that God inflicts bad things on you, but I think sin can bring bad things to you. So I appreciate God, you know, allowing me to have this dream before different, you know, areas in my life that needed correction, you know, could occur. So anyway, this dream was crazy. It had multiple scenes to it, and I had a rapture dream that I recorded that had multiple scenes, and I've had maybe one or two other dreams that I know were from God that also were the same. It had like multiple scenes to it. The first several scenes of the dream were meaningful to me in my personal life. They weren't, I don't think it probably, the meaning of them would not be applicable to other people, so I'm not going to include that. I feel compelled to share this last part because I think that a lot of people will relate to it, and I think that it may convict other people, and it feels kind of too big to keep to myself. Fair warning, I can't talk about this dream hardly without crying. So anyway, and if you have any helpful like insight, there are some parts and probably some symbolism that I don't fully understand. So if you have any insight, I would love for you to comment below. Some of the people who've watched some of my videos have given me insight that totally changed my understanding, that totally resonated with my soul. So I thank you in advance if you have any helpful input. I would love to get that. So anyway, the first part of what I'm going to share with you, I'm like in this room, and we're doing art. I'm like at one of those like wine and canvas type parties, and I'm making art, drawing this beautiful drawing, and something happens and paint goes flying, and my canvas is ruined, and I have to exit the room to go change. So, you know, dreams aren't logical. I exit this room to go change, and I go into this like bedroom that's like adjoined, but like other people are in it. And this sounds like it's gonna get creepy and weird, and it doesn't really. But the room is very dark, and it has a very bad vibe to it. And I'm in here to just like change my clothes. I'm in the room, I think kind of like searching for clean clothes to put on, and my husband walks into the room, and he says, oh my gosh, you were right. They just made Obama the such and such and such of the U.S. And It's a title that I have never heard before. I guarantee you that I could see this being a real title for somebody at some point. It sounded really good. It wasn't president, and it wasn't vice president. It was some politically charged sounding official title. But it was, I knew in the dream it was specific to the U.S. So I've always questioned like the role that Obama would play on the world stage in the end times. And I have strongly questioned if he was the antichrist, and I feel like I have received dreams that perhaps he was. But, you know, my husband is always, I think, I don't know that he thinks Obama's the antichrist. I think he thinks I'm probably a little crazy with that. And so that was kind of interesting in the dream. He came in and he said, "You were right. They just announced that Obama is this blah, blah, blah title of the U.S." Now, I've always thought that since Obama was no longer president, that should he come on the scene, it would be like in a capacity of the United Nations. In this dream, I did know that it was specific to the U.S., that he had resumed some kind of power within the U.S., only it wasn't under a presidential title. And so, in this bedroom, there's bed, and so I go to lay down on this bed to like hop on my phone. I'm like, because I just know that basically in that moment, I'm like, he's the Antichrist. Obama is the Antichrist, is what I thought in this dream. So I go to lay down on this bed, you know, feet up on the bed. I'm scrolling on my phone, and I'm looking for information on Obama and this new title and what's happening, because in my dream I was thinking what happened to Trump. I didn't know what was going on, and so I'm like searching, you know, the news frantically to figure out what's going on. At this point, an older, like elderly couple walked past us, and my husband's like laying on the bed on his phone, likewise like trying to figure out the news, and we're like just sitting there on our phones. And this couple walks by us, elderly couple, and they're like, "What are you doing? You should be enjoying yourselves." Or no, they said, "You should be enjoying each other." And it was just that like very judgmental, like, I know surely like you've been in this situation, like I have to use my phone quite a bit for work, and so there'll be times that I'm with my family and I am on my phone for work, and it's, you know, I'm on call or whatever, and it's unavoidable and I have to be on my cell phone. And I've caught the nasty looks from people, you know, and it just makes me kind of seethe with anger, because I'm like, I'm providing for my family. This is something, you don't know anything about me or my situation. I'm thankful to God that I have a job where I can physically be present with my kids, you know, and still be able to do the job that I have to do, you know, the work that needs to get done for my career. But anyway, that was my reaction in the stream. Also, I'm just like seething with anger, and I made some snarky, you know, comment back to them that wasn't really respectful of my elders. But it really made me mad in the dream. And then that little part kind of comes to an end. The next part comes, and there is a transvestite who comes in the room, and my husband, I'm no longer laying down on this bed. My husband is no longer in the scene. It's just me in this dark room still. And this transvestite comes in the room, and he is all dressed up. He's got his wig and his makeup, and he looks, you know, ready for a party. And he's ticked off, and he is, you know, this and letting me have an earful about, and he's holding a pair of hot pink high heels. And I immediately, in this dream, I recognize them as my own. In my real life, I don't know, I've never seen these shoes, but in the dream, I'm like, yes, those are my shoes. And he goes, "You sold me these shoes, they don't even look good on me, and I don't want them." And he kind of like thrusts them at me, like, I want my money back. And I say, okay, I'll give you the money for the shoes, but I'm not giving you the rest of the money until I get the rest of the stuff back. So I don't know what all that meant. Apparently I had sold him more of my own belongings. So I pull out this money, and in the dream I know it to be specifically $150, so kind of expensive high heels. But I'm like, count out this cash for him, and I hand him back these high heels, and he's like flipping through the money, like counting it out as he exits the scene. As he walks out, he stops and he puts down like a tumbler full of what I know in the dream is vodka, just like a clear liquid on ice. And some of these specific details I haven't really completely looked up what the symbolism is supposed to be. So again, if you have any insight, I would love for you to share. I think I'm including all the symbols I can remember because I think they're important sometimes. But anyway, this is a part that's hard for me to get through. He places this cup with vodka on the floor, and I'm looking at it, and inside this glass of vodka turns into a whirlwind, and it's going and going and going, like a tornado or a hurricane inside this cup, and the cup is growing bigger and bigger and bigger inside this room. And I get scared. I'm like, okay, this is supernatural. This is weird. What is happening? And I get down on the ground, and I'm looking at this cup, and the whirlwind turns into like a slideshow. And the slideshow is icons of all of the common brands that we shop. So it'd be like if you're flipping through like the pages on your phone and looking at all of the icons on your phone for all the places that you shop or look at. I clearly saw Amazon, Netflix, McDonald's, Saks Fifth Avenue, Sephora. Those are just a few that I can remember, and I think there were more, but those are all probably icons that I either have or have had on my phone at some point. And I'm like, what is going on? And I get down on the floor and I just fall on my face. And it's like I can feel the presence of the Holy Spirit in the room with me. And it's so convicting. It's so convicting, and I can't even talk about this without just trembling. And that God is showing you these things that you've wasted energy and resources on. And I feel like I'm tapped on the shoulder and told, look up, child. And I look up. And now it's a slideshow of my son growing up. The only thing I can compare it to is probably what you hear people discuss as like end of life experiences. When they see a slideshow or, they see images flashing before their eyes. That's basically what I had. I had a slideshow pass before my eyes of my son growing up. When he's born, his early days of infancy, and then as a toddler, and then as a younger boy, and then, learning to walk, and all of the stages. And then it gets to an age, and what I am shown is all the times that he looked at me and I wasn't there. And there's outfits that I'm being shown that he wore that I wouldn't even remember hardly, except for recognizing it in this dream. So many moments. It was like it happened so fast, but it was so many times. I'm deeply ashamed to tell you how many times. He looked to me and I wasn't present. And he was tugging on me and looking to me and looking for my reaction and looking, and I wasn't engaged. I was on my phone or on a computer or on a call, and I wasn't there for him. And then a very commanding voice said, "You chase these things, but why?" And then there was a blast on the shofar, and it woke me up. It woke me up like an explosion had gone off. I mean, it was like the sound of this shofar was like body rattling. It was insane. And it was just one of those dreams where, like, you know that it was from the Lord, and he is telling you to get your priorities straight. And I think that this applies, though, and like some of the stuff, like some of the icons that I was shown were not things that I participate in, or not companies that I like or use. And I think that was specifically done because God wanted me to know that it is the American consumption. And that is why I also feel like I'm meant to share this message, because I think it's something that probably most all of us can relate to, is the consumption of things that simply aren't meaningful, you know? I think, you know, what's crazy about this dream is that the overall message is that he's coming soon, you know? And I think a lot of Christians are preaching it and even believe it. And a lot of us still aren't living it. Like, we're still not preparing ourselves, probably emotionally. You know, our home isn't here. We're just passing through. Our home and our treasures are in heaven. But I think we're also called to be good stewards. And I think our time here matters. You know, where God wouldn't assess what we do here. He wouldn't create this if it, you know, was meaningless. And I think that, you know, how we finish this race is really important to him. You know, and I think the shofar blast at the end of the dream was like his buzzer. You know, time's up. Like, how do you want your time to end? If somebody told you you're gonna die tomorrow, what would you do? What would you be doing? If you knew that God was gonna rapture you tomorrow, what would you be doing today? If you knew a date, if God gave us a date in the Bible that said on October 30th, 2019, the rapture will occur, how would October look different for you? You know? Would you spend it going shopping? Would you spend it with family? Would you spend it going all in with your kids? Yes, we have to occupy. Yes, We're not going to quit our jobs. If God wanted us to do that, he would give us a solid date. You know, but I think we need to just be mindful in all of the choices that we make, the priorities that we keep, the plans that we keep. You know, I think we just have to be wise in how we allocate all of our resources. The second part of this dream that I think I need to discuss, that I feel compelled to discuss, is that God talks about lukewarm. I think materialism is a humongous problem within America's Christian church. I don't just think it's like a little thing. I think it's one way that Satan has his tentacles wrapped around us. You know, I think a lot of us, and I have been guilty, I'm not pointing my finger, clearly, I have been guilty, where God wouldn't have given me this dream. You know, I think it applies to I'm not going to put a percentage, but virtually probably all of us have been guilty of this at one point or another. I think that it is a way that Satan is finding access to us, our families, our minds, and our hearts. You know, I don't think the lukewarm Christian is a Pharisee, as I've heard other channels describe. I think the lukewarm Christian is the Christian that is just not that into Christ. They like him okay. They like, you know, the grace piece of things, and, you know, they definitely like the idea of going to heaven, but they're just not that into Jesus. You know, they're not into him enough to lay down their sins. They're not into him enough to go all in for him. They're not into him enough to talk to their coworkers about him, or their friends, or bring his name up at a party. You know, they're not that into him. They're into him enough to go to church and, you know, make sure to make some religious statements around the holidays, and maybe post a cool Christian meme, or go to a, you know, Christian concert here or there. But they're not on fire for Jesus. They do not love him with their hearts, minds, and souls as he has commanded us to do. It's a command. He says, be holy, for I am holy. They're not trying to look like him. You know, I was at a gas station looking for a movie for my kids, and I came across that movie, He's Just Not That Into You. And it was like, do you ever have that God moment where you feel like your attention is just like supernaturally like honed in or like drawn to something? And you're like, well, that's odd. Like, why am I so focused on this? But you feel like there's something important about it. God, just like this week, he is just like, I couldn't stop thinking about that darn movie, and I couldn't even like figure out really why. And then it just like struck me. It's like we're just not that into him. What makes Christians think that Jesus is returning for a bride who's just not that into him? I think when people talk about eternal security and once saved, always saved, and did you pray a prayer, I think what you need to do is tune all of that out. No man can tell you if you're saved. That is the bottom line. That is between you and Jesus. I think what you need to do is stop listening to other people tell you what you got to do, and you need to examine your own heart and find out what your feelings about Jesus are. You know what he did for you. He died so that you could have an opportunity to be forgiven. Now, what are you going to do for him? How much do you love him? You know, I would throw myself in front of a bus for my kids without thinking a second thought. I got to a place where I realized that's not how I treat Jesus. I get embarrassed just to talk about him, but I don't get embarrassed to pull up my phone and flip through pictures to show my friends, pictures of my kids here and there to people that I barely even know. But I get, you know, self-conscious and feel silly to bring up anything about Jesus, you know. And God just has convicted me, like, he is not coming for somebody who's not that into him. That is a lukewarm Christian. Somebody that's just not that into him. If you are not on fire, if you're not hot for God, I think you need to pray and ask for the Holy Spirit to guide you. I think you need to get into the Bible and the Word and learn who he is and learn about what he did. Because when you really study that and meditate that, and you make that your consumption, you are consuming this, you're ingesting it, you're filling your mind, heart, body, and soul with this information, you know what? It's a natural occurrence. But when you are consumed by the world, you're consumed by your phone, you're consumed with the TV, with the media, with social media. When you're consumed with those things, that the things of this world that are not of him, that are not consistent with his, you know, teachings and preachings and what he tells us is important, you're in trouble. You are just going to be in trouble. I'm just telling you, because Satan has his tentacles all throughout all of those different things. So the things that you're being brainwashed with are from Satan. I mean, they just are. And so I think this was God telling me, watch what your consumption is. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Guard your mind and your heart above all else. You know, narrow is the path. It's narrow, guys. There's lots and lots and lots of people who claim him. And if every single one of those people really loved him and really were followers, the path, he probably wouldn't be described as narrow. So, you know, the Bible tells us, be in the world, but not of the world. You know, we should be having one foot on earth and one foot on heaven, in heaven, straddling that line. And you know what? It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to straddle between here and heaven. It doesn't always feel real good. If you're really comfortable in this world, you need to gut check. I don't care what any grace pastor tells you. I believe in the grace of Jesus. You know what? The grace of Jesus is the fact that I can sit here with a straight face and share with you. And, you know, that any of us, we are all sinners. We are all. The fact that I can even have an opportunity to know, love, understand him, walk with him, that I can have an opportunity to approach the throne of God in the name of Jesus, is grace. Pure grace. But don't abuse his grace. Don't abuse his grace and spit in his face on a daily basis and think you're good because you said a prayer that you maybe half meant. I hope that this means something to somebody. You know, I looked up a few things, and maybe I'll do another dream to try to break, or another movie, video, whatever, to try to break down the meaning of all of this. I will quickly share, I think, you know, the transvestite in the room coming in. I mean, I think the fact that what I paid him was $150. I looked 150 up in Strong's, and it means filthy. Filthy. You know, the Bible says to be set apart. It says that people will call themselves believers and that, you know, they will be living evil lifestyles and not to even associate with those people. You know, I'm not saying that God doesn't have love and grace for transvestites or the LGBT community, because he does. He's waiting with open arms. I think it breaks his heart. I think that he sobs. I do. I think that he is crushed over every soul that is lost. And I think he welcomes them with open arms to return to their first love, you know. But I think that part of the dream, the fact that I was, you know, I was selling to something that I didn't agree with. I was selling out. I think God was telling me, stop selling out, stop participating in filth, be set apart, you know. I think as Christians, there's a lot of social pressure to sell out. I think you can love without selling out. I think you can. I mean, I think we need to gut check and consider what that means. And then I think another part of that is like, you know, I've wasted a lot of time on buying and selling stuff. You know, like I sell my kids outgrown stuff, and, you know, kids don't care. They wear stuff from, you know, Walmart or wherever. They don't care where their clothes are from. It yields little income, and it's such a time suck. And I think a lot of people are doing that type of stuff, the buying and the selling, and wasting time on it. And so for me, again, I feel like that was a personal message of where is the meaning behind your actions. So I hope this message is meaningful to somebody, anybody. If it touches even just one person, then it was worth me acting probably like an idiot on film. So God bless you all. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments. Love you. Bye.